Are you confused by the new dietary guidelines for Americans that includes the inverted food guide pyramid? Well, you're not alone, and I want to talk about the pros and the cons today. First, starting with the pros, and I do like that they emphasize eating real food and really prioritizing that and avoiding ultra-processed foods, refined flours, and sugars. Remember, it's not about getting it perfect, but really emphasizing real food, less processed foods. And second, eating more fruits and vegetables. That's always something we've heard for ages. Incorporating healthy fats gets a little tricky there, up for another discussion. Focus on whole grains. So there were some good points there. But I do think the cons is that there's some confusion. And again, looking at this inverted food guide pyramid, you can see that the meats and cheese are right at the top with vegetables. And people are like, what? Well, red meats is important as my broccoli? Well, you need to think about it from a perspective of weight. That portion is still going to be like the size of the palm of your hand, like 3 ounces is a deck of cards, whereas a serving of vegetables by weight might be 2 to 3 cups. So really, the portion on your plate should mostly be vegetables. And that's where people get confused with this pyramid. We should actually show it as a plate. Like, how does it look on my plate? You really still need that high amount of vegetables. Even athletes that have higher protein needs or other populations, growing kids, really you need more vegetables too. The more exercise you do, the more fiber, more antioxidants. You need to keep that high vegetable intake in with your protein. And you're gonna know it. If you're not getting enough fiber, you're gonna get constipated, you're gonna have more inflammation in your gut. And that is not really good for our microbiome and our health. So keep that in mind, and that's why it's a bit confusing. The other thing is dairy still makes it up at the top, and that I find is unfortunate. Our old food guide pyramid, as many of you may not know, was written by the Dairy Council and recommended 3 servings a day, and still yet they recommend 3 servings of dairy a day in this new guidelines. So really, most countries that have higher rates of fractures from low bone density tend to be those countries that have the highest intake of dairy. And those with the lowest intake of dairy, like China, have the lowest rates of fractures. Yet what we don't look at is inflammation and how that plays a role in our bone density. When you have more inflammation in the gut, you have more cytokines that really cause more bone breakdown, and it also causes reduced absorption of calcium from our diet, also of vitamin D and the production of vitamin K. And all of these are essential for bone density, in addition to weight-bearing exercise. So we might be looking at it in the wrong way. And remember too that over 70% of the world actually cannot digest lactose in dairy. So either avoiding dairy is important or always making sure fermented dairy is included. Smaller portions like whole fat yogurt that's fermented, or kefir, definitely without the added sugar, or even fermented cheeses, aged cheeses. All of those will digest easier if you can tolerate dairy. But to think that we need dairy as an essential part of our diet is actually incorrect. So that would be my biggest concern with this new inverted food guide pyramid. And I encourage you to check out my podcast, Go With Your Gut. And my latest episode, I actually talk about fiber maxing, increasing fiber in your diet. And I also review some of the popular diets that are out there to give you an overall perspective, but to also think about it one step at a time so that you're not overwhelmed. So please check me out over there. Go with your gut. Until next time, be well.